Well, thank you for welcoming me here. I do appreciate it. This is a unique opportunity for me. I'm not the guest speaker, so I get to introduce somebody else, and it's quite a pleasure after having maybe 45 minutes to an hour to speak with Mr. Cannon, with myself and James Kilgore. I've learned quite a bit about him. So today you're going to hear from, well, I guess I was supposed to say something about myself. All right. So I am the Vice President of SEIU, Service Employees International Union. I am SEIU. Can we hear for SEIU? All right. Yes, indeed. I'm also the co-founder of an organization called Champaign-Urbana Citizens for Peace and Justice, better known as CUCPJ. Yes, indeed. I am now currently the president of Citizens with Conviction, a local organization made up primarily of individuals who have felony convictions, and we are working on behalf of individuals who are fighting to overcome that, and we're using our conviction, not our convictions, to do that. So we've been working on a movement now called Ban the Box, where we're working to get the applications changed in the city of Urbana so that no longer will they be able to have the question of whether or not you have been convicted of a felony. There's a lot more to that. I will not get into that right now, but it's a very interesting campaign, and you can see me afterwards. I'll be willing to answer any questions. Today we're going to hear from Mr. Darrell Cannon. In 1983, Mr. Cannon was tortured by Jon Burge of the Chicago Police Department, forcing him to confess to a murder he didn't commit. And my conversation with Mr. Cannon today, this is called murder by accountability. Not that he directly allegedly committed a murder, but it was that he had knowledge of or either ordered this particular murder to take place, and that's what he was convicted of. And the individual who was allegedly charged with the actual murder was found not guilty. So run that through your head, right? The individual who was charged with the murder was found not guilty, but the individual who allegedly knew something about it was found guilty and subsequently spent 24 years in prison behind it. We should not take lightly, ladies and gentlemen, the word torture. In speaking with Mr. Cannon, I sort of cautiously approached the subject, and he was very open and very candid about what that torture, what happened, what took place, and he wants us to know unequivocally that there's no question that he will not answer about anything that he's doing right now or that he went through. So he does not want anyone in this audience to feel that your question is not a relevant question or it's too personal or whatever. Feel free to ask questions. So let's not take lightly what that feels like or what that would feel like. We've seen movies of Sylvester Stallone being tortured and things like that, and you think you may have something in your mind of what that would feel like. But Mr. Cannon shared with me that, you know, by the end of the day, he was ready to sign whatever. And so when you actually go through that level of treatment, of torture, of the things that he described, it's hard for me to imagine, but after my conversation with him, I was clear that I don't think I can take a position that there's no way I'm going to confess to something, right? Listening to what he described. So Mr. Cannon sought to vindicate his constitutional rights in federal court. He filed a handwritten complaint alleging that he was tortured and seeking money for the damages from his torturers. Unbeknownst to him, his court-appointed lawyer and the public at large, his court-appointed lawyer and the public at large, his torture was in fact part and parcel of a widespread secret pattern and practice that was spearheaded by Burge and implemented by the crew of detectives who tortured Mr. Cannon. As a result of this ignorance, in 1998, well before the newly discovered evidence of torture had surfaced, Mr. Cannon accepted the city of Chicago's offer of a nuisance value settlement of $3,000, which netted him a mere $1,247 for 24 years of imprisonment. After Mr. Cannon was exonerated in 2004, he filed a new suit in federal court seeking damages for the more than 2 decades of wrongful imprisonment that he suffered as a result of his tortured confession. Darrell Cannon will speak out about organized police torture rings, Chicago style, and discuss the work of finding justice for survivors, exemplified in the work of People's Law Office, a Chicago civil rights law firm. Ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee you will not be the same when you leave here this afternoon, so please join me in welcoming Mr. Darrell Cannon.
Please excuse me for not having on the suit. As a rule, I like to have a suit on, but Francisco and them told me to be more comfortable, and it wasn't a need. Again, I thank Francisco and everyone else involved in bringing Darrell Cannon here today. It is extremely important that everyone here knows that if you think that there aren't members of the Chicago Police Department who engages in devious practices, then you're not living in the real world. It's unfortunate that I had to be the subject of some of that viciousness that I endured for over 24 years in prison and going through the judiciary system. They did everything humanly possible to keep me from speaking about what had happened to me at the hands of some vicious Chicago Police Department officials. Please know that on November the 2nd, 1983, about 6:30 in the morning, I think about 8, 9 all-white Chicago detectives kicked in my front door and my back door looking for me. They had an arrest warrant for my arrest. Now, at that time, I did not know that these particular detectives had a reputation that if they arrest you, you will confess, whether you did something or not. Now, in my situation, I was accused of having, like my brothers say, either ordering or I had knowledge of a death of a dope dealer that was selling drugs around a grade school. Now, I would tell you emphatically that I have no sympathy for anyone that deals drugs to children. I have no sympathy for that person. Adults is one thing. You know, I don't try and control or govern what adults do. But children, they haven't lived long enough to make responsible decisions sometimes. So whatever happened to that dope dealer, I feel like, you know, it's poetic justice, you know, simple as that. But anyway, because of the fact that I refuse to shed any light on what happened to this alleged dope dealer, 3 Chicago detectives took me to an isolated area on November the 2nd. I was cuffed behind my back, and this area they took me to, they got me out the detective car, and they told me, and I quote, "Nigga, look around. Nobody's going to see or hear anything that happens to you today out here." Now, in my mind, the same as all of you, these are police officers, so they're not going to kill me. You know, well, you know, you can say that, but before they finished with me that day, I understood what they meant when they told me in that detective car, the detective that split my lip and chipped my teeth told me, and again, I'm using his exact words, "Nigga, we have a scientific way of interrogating niggas like you, and before the day is out, you will learn exactly what we mean by that." And that morning, in that isolated area, when I refused to answer any questions that they was asking me, they took me to the back part of the car, and a detective took a shotgun, and he said, "Nigga, listen," and he turned his back. Now, when he turned his back to me, I heard the sounds that it seemed like the shotgun shell was being placed up in the chamber. And when he turned back around, I didn't see the shotgun shell. So he said, "You gonna tell us what we want to hear?" I said, "No." At that point, another detective said, "Go ahead, shoot that nigga." And that's when the detective tried to force the shotgun barrel in my mouth. I refused to open my mouth, and that's how my 2 teeth got chipped, and he split the upper lip. And he finally got the barrel of the shotgun in my mouth, and he said, "You gonna tell me what I want to hear?"